Let's get into the meat of today's lesson, and that is email marketing. And there's really no getting around it today, and you wouldn't really want to anyway. It is the most cost effective and most efficient way for you to market. And you can begin marketing today. You can begin to reach your ideal clients today. And there's also good ways and bad ways to do email marketing. And in this section, we'll give you some basics around best practices and what is not spam, which is something you're going to hear about, and how to acquire as well as keep your subscribers. And if you don't have a list yet, relax, we'll get you up and running. We'll also cover how to market to lists while you're building your own. In fact, let's get to that first. Let's say that you have no list, or you have one that is on a service that does not use double opted in as a practice. Now, what is double opted in? Double opted in means that they sign up on your website, and then they get emailed a link, and they have to click on the link to confirm that yes, they in fact definitely wanted to sign up on your website, and they definitely want to hear from you. The reason that's important is because it allows those companies, those email marketing companies who provide that service to you, to go to internet service providers and negotiate with them to allow those emails to go through. So there's something called deliverable or deliverability rate, and you want some email marketing company that has in fact done that they strongly encourage you to use double opted in practices. The reason for that is that then they can then go to bat for you if you get too many spam complaints. And spam complaints, well, let's just say that often people, they don't realize what they're doing when they click spam, or they do, but they don't realize that the damage it's doing. But sometimes they've even just forgotten who the heck you are. So you want a service that has a double opted in practice. Most of the big names do these days. I have one I'll recommend, of course, and we'll get to that. But let's say you're starting from scratch. And here's how you can begin some email marketing today to targeted groups. And by the way, even if you already have a list, this is good guerrilla marketing. And first of all, begin by searching groups that are relevant. And when I say groups, I mean Yahoo groups or Google groups that are relevant to what you want to assist people in. For the interests and areas that you want to assist people in, you're offering your targeted groups. Or perhaps it is a group that is around really just something that would attract your ideal client. Or simply groups for practitioners like yourself. And there may be groups for practitioners like yourself. Or both. And some of them may not be obvious, but with a little thinking and searching, you can find groups that have prospective clients in your area of focus or area of concern. And once you find several groups, and when I used this strategy myself to begin my list, I subscribed to at least 20 in the very first day. I think over 3 days, I think I'd subscribed to 50. And go ahead and subscribe to them. And find out what their rules are. Often you get an automated email as soon as you subscribe explaining the rules. Now, some of them aren't going to let you market, and that's fine. But you want to watch for a period of time. You simply want to see what the traffic is like in the group. You don't want to immediately send out an email saying, "Hey, I'm here, and I'm here to market." You don't even want to say, "Hey, I'm here, and I'm here to contribute." You want to sit and watch for a period of time. And before long, people will start sharing. You'll also get a sense of a feel for the group. And someone will share something, and you'll be able to offer some perspective, or an insight, or a more direct explanation of what may help them. Now, what's important to remember is that some lists allow marketing and some do not. Some are ambiguous about it. Some, say that you can market as long as it's you yourself. In other words, you can't market for somebody else or like that. And often, as long as you're using an authentic voice in your email marketing copy, which is critical today anyway to be effective, and share something personal about why you're sharing it. Often, you can at least be in the gray area. And you'll also find that some of these moderators, though, they have a different way of moderating. And some lists are moderated, meaning someone actually reviews your email before it goes through. And some lists aren't moderated, but there is a moderator who then will call you to task if it goes through and it's in violation of the rules. So some lists allow marketing and some don't. And you want to be careful about that. You always want to be respectful of the rules. At the same time, once you get a sense and feel of the group, it's quite fine to exploit ambiguity, meaning that if it's not, it's almost like actually in the United States, it's like the left turn. If it's not prohibited, you can do it. So think of it that way. If there isn't a sign that says not to do it, go ahead and do it. Now they may say, hey, we're not really into that in this group. Say, oh, great, thank you. And just make sure you read and abide by their rules. But even if they don't allow direct marketing, be sure you have a signature file at the end of every email with your business title and contact information. Now, you may bump into a few walls, and that's fine. I certainly did. And they may tell you to take your shtick elsewhere, and that's fine too. It's all well and good. It's really just feedback. It's just feedback. So, people are weird. Don't take it personally. Just realize that it says a lot more about them than it does about you, but you still want to also use it to craft yourself in a way that speaks into their world. And then simply move on. Now, you may simply, post a link to a relevant article you wrote on your blog saying, hey, I thought somebody might find this useful. That's also good guerrilla marketing. And simply saying something like, thought you'd find it useful or helpful, with a link to the post on your site. It could be also that you see something that people are talking about and it inspires you to write something, and you can actually in the thread say, hey, I wrote something about this. It's one of the areas of my focus now. I thought you might find it helpful, like that. And some of them will begin to sign up on your list. It'll happen invariably. They'll be curious about you. They'll read the article. Some of them may, actually ask you directly if you want to help them professionally. And some of them, of course, will become your clients. I actually still use this strategy in addition to posting stuff to my own email marketing list. There's still community lists that I'm subscribed to. There's 3 of them, I think, still. And I use them as additional ways to reach people. And just remember to be coming from service and contribution, and to be always about delivering value. If you say, if you start the email off by saying, well, gosh, this is where I coach most people on, and, let me give you some advice. Well, that's not going to go over as well as if you really validate their experience, speak into their world, and then offer something valuable and just have a sig file there. Once we get into you creating your evening introductions, which will be very shortly, then, you want to be able to send those notifications out to lists. And that may be a different set of lists. There may be some lists where that's acceptable and some where it's not. That's far more direct marketing. But as long as you're coming from service and contribution and you're delivering value, few people will have much complaint with you unless you're explicitly violating the rules of the group. So as you're doing that, though, you're going to want to have an email marketing service or a list service if you don't already. And there's a service I recommend for several reasons. They are simply the best I've found. And there's a few reasons for that. The options they allow you to create, whether that's type of opt-in forms or different number of lists, their tracking statistics, their analytics are incredible. And I find them to just be, one of the best in the business. They have a ton of free training. In fact, whether you have your own email marketing service or not, you might want to just, head on over to their blog. They have just a ton of free training that they offer all the time. Sometimes that is just in the form of articles and things that work and things that don't work. Sometimes it's showcasing somebody that is doing something incredibly well, and sometimes it's simply how to do things and videos and things like that. They also have incredibly high integrity. Really, spam is just not tolerated, and I like that. I like that throughout their business, it's obvious that they are there to provide a service for people who are truly trying to be of value. Their deliverability rate is one of the best in the business, and again, I talked about that, and that is because of their integrity and the way that they urge really you to create your forms and things of that nature. They've been able to negotiate with internet service providers to make sure that their emails are allowed through, so they don't get bounced back. And they have a double opt-in requirement. You'll want to go up and sign for an account, and you can do that here. And this is my unapologetic affiliate link. It's aweber.com. That's AWEBER.com /?318,659. Now, if you don't want to sign up using that affiliate code for me, then simply go to aweber.com. I really don't care about the affiliate part. What I do care about is that you are able to use what I consider to be the best service. Now, there's a few others out there that are comparable. There's MailChimp, which is perfectly fine. There's Constant Contact, which actually I don't recommend, but they're good enough. But I highly recommend Aweber. Let's talk about marketing practices and best practices. First of all, don't take their interest for granted. You want to be cautious about how frequently they hear from you. And you do not want to be a marketing machine, which is really saying the previous two things in a different way. And I've found the best way to do that is to mix in free, valuable content. And the best way to do that is to give 2 free things to every one offer. Now, people don't consider a discount, by the way, to be something that's valuable to them. They consider that a sales pitch, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with sales pitches. But the reason that they subscribe to you wasn't necessarily to be marketed to. They subscribe to your list because they want to hear what you're up to, and they're interested in being marketed to, but primarily because they think you have something valuable to offer them. And usually that means, a podcast, it means a blog entry, it means some piece of insight, things of that nature. And even if you don't have any of those things yet, and you're, wondering how you're going to do them, you still want to have all of this set up so that when you do begin to, you're not having to transfer all these people, from something on your own servers or in your own mail program into an email marketing service, because what'll happen is there's going to be a high attrition rate. So you're just going to want to start right away. Don't make the mistake I made. Start right away with making sure that you have a good email marketing service that you're using. You also, it's a good idea to conduct the occasional survey. You can get any number of free surveys, using SurveyMonkey or there's a few out there that are free. And you can simply ask people what they're interested in, how frequently they want to hear from you, like that. You also want to be aware of delivery windows and open rates. Now, this is the reason that analytics are so critical. Now, with Aweber, the analytics, I think it costs an extra $10 a month. Make sure you get that part. And whatever or whoever you're using as a service, make sure that you also have an analytics package so that you can see how many people are opening your emails and how many people are clicking through on the links that you provide. But delivery windows are, in essence, and there's probably something about this on the Aweber blog, or maybe you can find this, with a simple Google search. But delivery windows are simply what time of day and which day of the weeks are people most likely to open your emails. And it's different for everybody's lists, but there's some common sense that goes in with it also. I mean, don't schedule an email to go out first thing Monday morning at 10 a.m. Monday morning. A lot of people have 9 to 5 jobs, and that's going to be very disruptive. And mostly they just won't open it or they won't read it. They might open it, but they won't have time to actually read it, and then they forget about it because just like the stream on Facebook, once it gets out of that primary window in their inbox, well, it's sure maybe they were aware enough to mark it as unread, but even then, it's still going to be forgotten about, and you'll hear from them in a month maybe, or they might read it in a month. But you just want to be aware of delivery windows and open rates. In my business, I've noticed that Thursday afternoons, Tuesdays, sometimes mid morning, and definitely Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings are good in terms of people actually opening the emails. But use your own analytics to see what works best for your target market. And another thing that any good email marketing company will allow is for A/B split testing. And sometimes it's simply the headline. And there's a whole art to headline writing and copywriting. And there's a link to an article in that same blog entry I just pointed you to with the Guy Kawasaki link. And there's an article that he linked to, that I linked to in that blog entry, about how to write good headlines. So you really want to mosey on over to my site and take a look at that social media and you blog entry. But this is something to be aware of. It could simply be the headline was different. So you can actually split your list on aweber.com and have half the people get a certain headline and another half get another headline. But for the most part, you want to be aware of delivery windows and open rates. If they didn't open, it doesn't mean they're not interested. It could simply mean that you sent it the wrong time of day. It could simply mean that your headline wasn't effective enough. And you want to tinker around with that before you make it mean anything about yourself or about your offering. Here's another big thing. You never want to put the full text of anything in your email sendouts. Ever, ever, ever. You always want to drive it to one of your websites. So you want to, put half of it in there and then link to your website saying, for the rest of it, go here, or for more details, go here. If it's an article, you want to say something very short, just a couple of lines about what you wrote and link to the article. If it's an event, you want to simply put the first couple of opening paragraphs of your copy. And that way you actually have even more statistics. How many people click through? How many people actually got onto your website? And also, once they get onto your website, and this goes for whether you're marketing to a community list or your own email marketing list. But if, let's say it's a community list, once they get onto your website, well, then they have an opportunity to sign up for your newsletter and you're adding people to your email marketing list. So whether you're doing an event on Facebook, you still want to link to your site for full details. Always, 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 always. The expert in list building, by the way, is Telman Knudsen, and this guy is really the best in the business. He also has if he can do it, anyone can do it market pretty much cornered. And if you search him and look at one of his videos, you'll see why. He's hysterical. And in his first year of internet marketing, he made something like $900,000. And he's also just seems like a sweetheart. But you'll know what I'm talking about if you go there. But he has great stuff on list building. And be willing to take your time building your list. You really want authentically interested, double opted-in subscribers. So don't use any sort of icky stuff or anything questionable. And even buying a list is sketchy. Now, you might want to do a joint venture where you create an agreement with somebody that you can send stuff through their large list that gives people an opportunity to opt into your list. But that's more advanced stuff around email marketing and really more effective for product sales than it is for service sales. So let's get you signed up in Aweber if you have not already. And if you already have an email marketing service you feel loyal towards, that's fine. For those of you that do not have one or feel no loyalty towards one, I feel Aweber is really the best available. The next step up would be Infusionsoft, and they really Actually, I should back up. Aweber is the best available in terms of straight email marketing. Infusionsoft would be the best available for really running your entire business out of something. And Infusionsoft is really great. And they're about $200 a month. Unless you're doing serious internet sales, it's probably more than you need. Aweber is $29 a month, and that includes the analytics package. And at the same time, some of you may want to explore the Infusionsoft. It's something that you'll never outgrow. So that's something to consider. Now, once we get you signed up, they will walk you through creating an opt-in subscribe form and installing it on your WordPress website, which is super simple now because they simply have a plugin. So it used to be that you had to generate code and paste the code into a text widget and blah, blah, blah. Well, none of that is necessary anymore. They simply have a plugin, and they really walk you through step by step for creating a list. So you're going to want to do that now. So your next steps are signing up and creating a subscribe form for your site, installing the plugin into your WordPress site, and then finally installing and configuring TweetDeck and scheduling some updates so you can get a hang of that. When I say configuring, what I mean is make sure you're adding your Twitter and your Facebook accounts to it, and you actually toy around with scheduling some updates. I'm also going to encourage you to download it to your mobile device, whether you're on the Android or iPhone platforms. Make sure that you go ahead and download that in addition as a support for yourself. The reason that's also important, by the way, is there are some things you don't want to schedule. Now, when I'm doing a lot of scheduling, I often do inspirational quotes or themed quotes interleaved again with the marketing. But you also want to actually send something out that's authentic about what you're up to right now or what you're experiencing right now. People actually love that stuff. They thrive on it. So where you're at, what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're experiencing right now. If you just mosey on over to my Facebook wall, you can certainly see what I mean. At the same time, there's a lot of stuff there that I post, depending on which day of the week it is. Often on the weekends, I'll post a lot more stuff that is actually links. It'll be less scheduled. It'll be less, it'll be less uniform. But those are your three next steps: signing up and creating a subscribe form for your site, installing the plugin in your WordPress site, and installing and configuring TweetDeck, and scheduling some updates. And our next week will really begin to get even deeper into reaching a client, and we're really going to be focusing on how to create your evening intro and marketing that, as well as delivering it and designing it. Thank you again for allowing me to contribute to you. I'm Jason McClain, your host here and your guide in the 21st century marketplace.